Second day of the new semester. The sky hung gray and silent, like a sheet of ash draped wearily over the aging buildings of North Haven High School. Inside Class 10A2, the humanities track, where most of the rich kids enrolled, the atmosphere was loud and stifling at once. Stories about ski vacations, trips to Hawaii, new iPhones and Chanel bags were tossed around like casual banter between kids who had never known what it meant to go without. In the farthest corner, where the light barely reached, sat Kendra Morris, a petite black girl, 15 years old, with eyes as dark as the sky after a storm, and skin the color of sun-baked earth. Kendra was new. No one knew where she'd come from. She didn't speak unless spoken to, introduced herself in just one line, and never tried to be friendly. Her hair was thick and braided, curled like roots twisted by a storm. Her sneakers were worn down. Her uniform was too big, the sleeves nearly covering her fingers, and in a place like North Haven, that was more than enough reason to be looked down on. It didn't take long for the sharks to smell blood. Midway through recess, a group of 4 students stood from the middle row, clean-cut, well-dressed, their faces bright, but their eyes gleaming with something colder. Leading them was Trey Lancaster, 16, white, blonde hair shaved neatly at the sides. The only son of the local judge. He was the kind of boy adults called a natural leader. Good grades, clean clothes, polite voice. But inside, something else entirely. Arrogant, spoiled, and dangerous. Trey stepped behind Kendra. The others spread out casually, forming an invisible ring. He smirked and raised an eyebrow. "Hey, who told you it was okay to bring that bird's nest to class? You black girls sure have weird hobbies, huh?" Laughter erupted. Kendra didn't respond. Her eyes remained fixed on her open book. "Wait a second. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us." The letters beginning to blur, not from fear, but from sheer irritation. "Let me fix it for you. The security cameras might mistake you for a bush." Then, snip, a flash of silver. A thick lock of her braided hair dropped to the floor, curling like something violently torn away. The class howled. Plastic chairs screeched. Someone even pulled out their phone and started filming. Kendra stood up. No shouting, no grabbing, no tears. She turned. Those dark, still eyes locked onto Trey's, like a still lake suddenly hiding a deep undercurrent. Trey flinched, not because she yelled, but because she didn't. Kendra raised her hand. She grabbed Trey's wrist, the one holding the scissors. She didn't squeeze, but something in her grip made his spine go cold. She wasn't tall. She was a full head shorter than him. But there was something in her touch, a force not of muscle, but of rage held back too long. Her voice dropped, low and sharp, cutting through the air like glass. "I'll break your wrist in 3 seconds if you touch me again. 1, 2, silence." Someone might have laughed, but choked on it. Someone might have hit record, but their fingers were shaking too hard. Trey froze. He couldn't say a word. For the first time in his life, he was being stared down by a girl. A black girl. A poor girl. A nobody. And she wasn't afraid. The entire class held its breath. In that moment, no more than 10 seconds long, everyone understood. There was something different about this girl. Not aggression, not rebellion, but pride. Pride sharpened by years of being pushed too far. Kendra let go. She didn't back down. She stepped back, picked up the severed lock of hair, rolled it into a small bundle, and slipped it into her uniform pocket. No one had expected it. The quiet, small black girl who hadn't said a word since morning fought back. The next morning, Kendra Morris's name appeared in bold red letters on the school's internal announcement board. Student Kendra Morris, formal warning for threatening violence against another student. No explanation. No detailed incident report. Not a single word mentioning she was the victim of having her hair cut. Just one line. Enough to destroy the reputation of a new, quiet transfer student. The video from the previous day had spread quickly among the students, but the clip being shared only showed the part after the moment when Kendra stood up, grabbed Trey's wrist, and said in a calm, low voice that she'd break his arm. There was no sound of the scissors, no image of her braid falling, No one mentioned the scissors at all, as if the first half of the incident had never happened. In that video, Kendra became the aggressive black girl. Trey, the white boy, was now the victim, being threatened. Trey's friends even cried when they were called into the principal's office, claiming they felt unsafe around the new student, who clearly had anger issues. Principal Richard Grayson, a middle-aged white man with silver hair, watched the clip, read the report, and shook his head. Physical threats are unacceptable, regardless of the reason. Kendra was called to the discipline office. She sat alone in front of 3 adults: the principal, the student counselor, and the discipline officer. They sat like a wall. She sat straight, hands on her lap, but her eyes had no hope left. She spoke softly. "He cut my hair first." "We didn't see that in the video," the discipline officer replied flatly. "There were witnesses," she added, trying to stay calm. "No one has confirmed it. If you have clearer evidence, we'll reconsider." Kendra swallowed the lump in her throat. Her hand clenched into a fist, then slowly relaxed again. She had seen this before. It wasn't the first time she was blamed simply because she was poor, black, and alone. That afternoon, her mother, Lorraine Morris, came to school. A thin black woman, slightly hunched, her skin darkened by years of cleaning chemicals and sun. She wore a faded green janitor's uniform. The sleeves were stained. Her shoes were soaked. She'd just finished scrubbing bathrooms at work before coming. The only reason Kendra had transferred to North Haven was because her mother's job had moved to a new branch, 4 hours away by subway. The only solution was to relocate, to find a new school where her daughter could stay close and maybe, just maybe, find a better future. Lorraine stood quietly in front of the principal's office, holding a broken comb, the one she had used to braid her daughter's hair that morning, now tangled with the freshly cut strands. Her voice was raspy. "I may not be well educated, but I know my daughter's not violent. She's just learned to protect herself, 'cause in this world, kids like her, if they don't fight back, they get torn apart like meat in a pack of wolves." The principal nodded politely, as if sympathizing, but his face showed only discomfort. Kendra knew that nod. It was for poor mothers to feel like they'd been heard, when in reality, the decision had already been made. Formal warning. Disciplinary record. In the hallway after the meeting, whispers followed Kendra's every step. Everyone had heard. A message was making rounds in the school group chat. "That black chick is scary for just transferred in and already threatening people. Looks like a damn criminal. Probably gonna end up in juvie." In Trey's group, some teachers praised them as mature, calm, and respectful under pressure. A few parents even sent emails thanking the school. "Glad our white kids stayed composed despite being threatened by a dangerous new student." Kendra walked down the hallway. Each step felt heavier than the last. Eyes followed her, not with pity, but with suspicion, like she was an animal caged in glass. From behind, someone threw a crumpled piece of paper that bounced off her forehead. She didn't flinch, didn't turn, didn't pick it up. But when the paper unraveled on the floor, the words were loud and clear. "Go back where you belong. We don't need black trash bringing violence to our school." Her hand tightened inside her pocket. The scissor-cut wound still burned on her scalp, close to the skin. She knew she was right, but truth meant nothing when no one wanted to hear it. And now she understood. In this system, every time she stood up for herself, it would be labeled as a threat, while every action of her bullies, as long as they were white and rich, would be dressed in words like misunderstanding, joke, or worse, victim. At a school where dignity was pre-assigned based on skin tone and family name, Kendra was just a shadow under the spotlight, never fully seen for who she really was. That afternoon, it rained. The downpour came without warning, just as school let out, soaking the hallways and making the floors slick and cold. Kendra walked alone as always, hunched beneath her threadbare hoodie, arms wrapped around a bundle of crumpled notebooks. She chose the emergency stairwell to avoid the main hall, where Trey and his gang usually hung out after class. But this time, they were waiting. The moment she stepped onto the 3rd stair, Trey appeared above her, blocking the exit. 3 girls flanked him, giggling. One shoved Kendra lightly on the shoulder. Don't think being scary means we're afraid of you. Kendra clenched her jaw, trying to stay calm. Move. No, Trey smirked. I think you owe me an apology for embarrassing me in front of class, in front of the camera, in front of these girls. One girl nudged Kendra's arm. Another pretended to sneeze, but actually spat on her hoodie and covered her nose like she was allergic to something filthy. Kendra's hands clenched tighter. She had been patient every single day, but on that sixth step her patience cracked open, like rainwater crashing down a roof. She turned sharply, brushing off the girl gripping her shoulder. The movement was quick but not violent. Still, the girl stumbled. Her heel slipped on the wet stone stair, and she fell. A sickening thud. Her head hit the railing, rolled once, and then lay still. Silence. Then screams. She pushed her. She hit her head. Call the nurse. Get the dean. Within 10 minutes, Kendra was hauled into the discipline office. Within 30 minutes, the entire school knew. The next morning, she stood before the disciplinary board, the principal, 3 staff members, a parent representative, and a school district lawyer. On the table sat a file labeled "Student caused serious injury to classmate." This time it wasn't just a warning, it was expulsion. Standing before them, the small black girl with eyes like stone didn't speak. No protests, no excuses, because she had spoken before, and no one had listened. She already knew. No one believed her. But just as the hearing began, something unexpected happened. A phone buzzed. One of the staff had received a message in the internal teacher group chat. Check this. New video. They opened it. It was a full video, capturing the entire classroom incident when Kendra's hair was cut. With audio. The class. Trey grabbing her braid. The scissors. The chunk of hair falling to the floor. Then it showed the stairwell. A wide-angle shot. Kendra surrounded. The pushing. Her defensive move. And the girl's fall. Clearly an accident from slipping, not from a push. Attached to the video was a caption in bold. Why is no one asking why she fought back? The clip spread across the entire school forum, then to social media. Within an hour, a local news site ran the headline, "Black student falsely accused." Truth uncovered by anonymous video. Parent forums erupted, some outraged. We judged that girl just because she's black. Others demanded, this school's disciplinary system needs a full investigation. The hearing was postponed. The administration was shaken. Trey and his friends were summoned for an emergency inquiry. But what shocked everyone most was when the anonymous uploader stepped forward. That afternoon, in the school library, Kendra received a message on the school's borrowed iPad. Meet me, 3rd floor, last table. She went, sat down, waited. Then a thin white boy with messy brown hair, oversized glasses, and a nervous shuffle appeared. His name was Elliot Brent. 15, same class as Kendra. They'd never spoken. To most, Elliot was just that weird bookworm. Elliot pulled out a chair and sat. He opened his laptop. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. I uploaded the video. Kendra frowned. You helped me. Why? Elliot didn't meet her eyes. He stared at the table. You don't remember, do you? The first day you came to school, you walked past the soccer field. Someone threw a can at me. I think they aimed it on purpose. He paused, swallowed hard. You caught it. Just raised your hand and blocked it. Didn't say anything, just looked at them and kept walking. Kendra, frozen. She didn't remember, truly didn't. All she saw back then was someone about to get hit by a flying can, and moved on instinct. Elliot continued. After that, Trey stopped messing with me. He picked you instead. I didn't have the guts to stand up for you then, but I knew the school servers kept backups. So, I found the deleted footage. Turned out Bookworm wasn't just a nickname. Elliot had taught himself everything from scratch, enough to hack into the school's system, retrieve cut footage, and anonymously upload the truth, all without getting caught. He handed Kendra a USB drive, nervously. Everything's on here, so no one can twist the truth again. Kendra looked at him, truly looked, Small, quiet, but brave and gifted. She said softly, "Thank you." Elliot scratched his head, shocked. "I just figured if no one says anything, the good ones always get crushed. And you saved me." That evening, Kendra stayed late. She sat in her room, staring at her phone. The video now had over 7. A pinned comment at the top read, "Fighting back isn't a crime. It means you're still alive." She looked down at her hands. The same hands that once clenched in self-defense, now trembling, not from fear, but from the knowledge that someone had stood up for her. A moment she'd long forgotten, simply raising her hand to block a flying can, had set off a chain reaction no one could have predicted. She hadn't remembered. She hadn't expected gratitude. That act of kindness was just instinct, from someone who couldn't watch injustice in silence. But it turned out, even the smallest kindness, when born from truth, always finds a way back. Sooner or later, the light you gave someone in silence may become the torch that guides you home. And in a place where justice once felt like a myth, someone, quietly, bravely, had protected the truth. All because they had once been protected, without ever needing a thank you. Within 24 hours of the full video going viral on social media, public outcry exploded. It wasn't just limited to North Haven anymore. Major city newspapers began covering the story with shocking headlines. "A black girl, the real victim in a classroom of lies." Hundreds of comments flooded the school's official page. Parents were furious. Students shared the story. Alumni wrote open letters demanding a full investigation into how the school handles bullying cases. The district education office reopened Kendra's file. The Department of Juvenile Justice dispatched a special task force to reevaluate North Haven's school conflict management system. An internal investigation began, not focusing on Kendra, but on the system that distorted her image to protect the reputation of wealthy white students. Kendra still went to school as usual, but this time, the hallways were no longer cold, winding mazes of hostile stares. As she entered Building A group of students stood silently on either side. Then one, the same sophomore boy who had once been bullied, quietly raised his left hand and gripped his right wrist. A firm grip, then a count. 1, 2, 3, like a ritual, like a thank you. In just one day, the action Kendra was once punished for, gripping a wrist and counting to 3, had become a new symbol, a symbol of disciplined defiance, of the powerless refusing to stay silent, of self-defense no longer seen as aggression, but as a sign of a soul learning how to survive injustice. 3 days later, North Haven held a press conference. Principal Richard Grayson stood pale-faced before over 200 reporters, cameras, students, and parents. Beside him were a representative from the Board of Education and an officer from the city's investigative unit. During the press conference, he read from a prepared statement. "We acknowledge the mishandling of the incident involving student Kendra Morris. We apologize to her and her family for failing to listen fully, for allowing a system to function on injustice. North Haven is committed to overhauling its entire process for addressing and investigating school violence." When he bowed his head, every eye turned to Kendra, seated in the front row next to her mother, Mrs. Lorraine, hands trembling but head held high. Kendra, as silent as she'd always been, didn't speak. But in that silence was the calm after a storm, and the weight of a turning point. She was no longer the aggressive black girl. Now, she was the name justice had spoken aloud. Trey and his 3 accomplices were suspended indefinitely. The education police opened a case investigating defamation and intentional psychological harm. As for Kendra, the city's Youth Protection Council invited her to become the face of the new initiative against school violence and hidden racism. At the campaign's launch ceremony, Kendra stepped onto the stage, under a warm spotlight, her sun-kissed face glowing with quiet strength. She didn't read a speech. She simply said, "I'm not a hero. I'm just a student who pushed back when I was hurt. Maybe I didn't do it the perfect way, but I had the right reason. I'm not here to teach anyone how to fight. I just want every student in this city to know, you have the right to say, that's enough. And if someone grips their own wrist and counts to 3, don't call it a threat. Understand it's the last breath of someone who's still refusing to fall. In the audience, Elliot sat in the guest section. Still a bit awkward, still quiet, but his eyes shone with pride. When Kendra stepped down, she gave him a small nod. A silent thank you between two people who were once invisible, now touched by something real. Justice. With Elliot's talent and integrity, it wouldn't be long before he, too, shone even brighter. From that day on, every Monday morning at North Haven was reserved for a new kind of class session. A space for students to speak up about what they'd seen, endured, or even caused. The counseling office hired 3 new staff just to support students who had been victims of bullying. And on the 3rd floor hallway, the school mounted a large glass plaque. 3 seconds to stand your ground. 3 seconds to not give up. Self-defense is not a crime. Silence is what kills us. Beneath the words, an illustration, a small girl gripping her own wrist. Not screaming, not crying, but her eyes, sharp as steel. Signed. One afternoon, after school let out, Kendra stepped into the chilly breeze. A younger girl from another grade ran up to her and slipped a folded note into her hand. Inside, in messy handwriting, "You don't know me, but the other day I was pushed in gym class. I was too scared to tell anyone. But because of you, I finally told my teacher. Thank you for not staying silent." Kendra folded the paper and tucked it into her pocket. Then, standing in the schoolyard with the wind whipping around her, she gripped her wrist. 1, 2, 3. Not to defend, but to remind herself that every time she had once stood alone, her voice now echoed far beyond. Not everyone is born with the privilege of being heard. For some, especially those who are different, poor, black, quiet, mere existence itself feels like a challenge to the entire system. But it's precisely in places where injustice hides behind decorum, in rooms built on rules and reputation, that the world most needs someone willing to grip their wrist and count to 3. Not to attack, but to stand their ground. Kendra was no hero. She was simply a young girl who dared to say enough when she was pushed too far. And in doing so, she lit a fire in the hearts of those who had grown used to enduring in silence. Truth can be distorted. Justice can come late. But if kindness holds firm, and if we don't retreat from what's right, then someday, inevitably, the world will listen and answer with change.